It's not every day that I get to have so much fun testing and just playing with a weapon. Now, it's also true this fun thing is sometimes tied into how powerful a weapon is, but thankfully for all of us, the Akjagara Prime has that in spades. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Lazer, and today we're going to be diving deeper into this absolutely fantastic secondary weapon, the Akjagara Prime. I'm going to be showcasing a couple of builds, something cheap and affordable, something anybody can build, but of course we also have an insane setup with a Riven. That being said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides take a new player friendly approach, simply because I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So if you're a veteran of the game and you already know most of this stuff, please bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Akjagara Prime. Let's start by quickly taking a look at how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that I'm simply going to be taking a couple of free shots. The Akjagara Prime will be firing 2 bullets at the exact same time. No, not really. Actually, it's a very quick succession of bullets. This is a burst trigger, and that matters a whole lot because if the bullets were to leave the chamber at the exact same time, then your status chance would have been getting divided amongst them. So bear that one in mind. Now, you might think this is similar to the Quartag, but in fact the Quartag fires all of the 4 bullets at the exact same time, but from different chambers. I know, it's a little bit strange, but the point is the status chance is not getting divided among your bullets. Your magazine size is 40, but you are firing 2 bullets per shot, so effectively 20. The recoil on the weapon is fairly small and the accuracy is quite nice. Now keep in mind that the bullets 90% of the time land one on top of each other, so not to the sides, which makes it a whole lot easier to get consistent headshot damage with the Akjagara Prime. Now let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. Mod capacity is going to be 60 out of 60, and if your Akjagara Prime has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install the Auto King Catalyst. Now this one can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky from the daily sortie, and you can also pay 20 plat to have one installed. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 3 times. That is because the Akjagara Prime comes with default 2 V symbols or Madurai, so it's not a forma heavy weapon. You can get away with even no forma build, or 1 or 2 depending if you have a Riven or some Prime mods. Accuracy 33.3, as you saw there, the weapon is quite accurate, just keep in mind how the bullets land. The critical chance 18%. Now you might scoff at this one and say it's not all that high, but it is 3 times higher than the normal version, which makes the Akjagara Prime viable for hybrid builds. Keep in mind that if you were to stack the same multiplier again and again and again on a weapon, the more you stack on, the less benefit you're getting. It's a form of diminishing returns, if you will, which is why some of the best weapons in Warframe can be built into hybrid. That is, well, the primary reason. Basically, you want to get the best of all of the worlds and all whatnot. The critical multiplier also saw a bit of a buff, a 10% increase from 2.0x to 2.2x. We got a fire rate of 10, which is a tad on the sluggish side, but we can fix that with Lethal Torrent. Magazine of 40, but effectively 20. Noise alarming, a punch through of 0.2. Now this one is a tad puzzling simply because it is so low. You're not really gonna feel it all that much in gameplay. Now when it comes to the shield Grenier dude, the enforcer type or whatever it's called, sometimes the bullet goes through the shield and sometimes it does not. So there you go. Quick reload at 1.4 and a fantastic Riven disposition of 5 out of 5, which will put the Akjagara Prime over the top. Status chance sky high once again at 32%, especially considering the IPS or the default damage on the weapon. The highest amount by far is gonna be slash, so we're gonna be able to make fantastic slash builds with the Akjagara Prime. And speaking of builds, there's 2 major ways of building the Akjagara Prime. I'm gonna highlight both and you guys get to choose whatever you prefer. First up, the mandatory mods: damage with Hornet Strike, multi-shot with Battle Diffusion, Lethal Torrent, critical chance critical damage with Pistol Gambit, and Target Cracker. Of course, if you guys got Prime versions, go right on ahead and equip your Prime versions. Next, we gotta decide exactly what we're gonna do with the weapon. Should we go for slash and try to leverage that high amount of slash with the high status chance, or we can go for a straight elemental setup? First, we're gonna be building Corrosive because I'm a big fan of Corrosive damage. That is because of the toughest targets in Warframe, the Grenier. Grenier have 2 armor types, Alloy and Ferrite armor. Ferrite is weak to corrosive damage and Alloy is weak to radiation damage. Corrosive on a status proc also has the edge in this case because it will be reducing some of that armor per proc, so your subsequent shots will be dealing more and more damage. So bear that one in mind. If you guys are up against the Infested, I would recommend AoE weapons heavily modded into heat, for example the Ignis Wraith. When it comes to Corpus faction for Tuna and all whatnot, now these guys are a fair bit tricky, not because they have a lot of damage mitigation, not because they're hard to kill or anything like that, simply because they have a lot more abilities and they can deal a whole lot more damage. Against Corpus faction, you can build Toxin or you can build Gas, as it will bypass their shields entirely and deal damage to their health. But against Corpus faction, if they're giving you some real trouble, a bit of crowd control goes a long way. Initially, we're going to be building Corrosive with Electricity and Toxin. Go straight for the 60-60 mods. Jolt is a pain in the butt to get if you don't have it, because this one can only be obtained from Battle Kit here, the Void Trader. And he brings Jolt every 2 to 3 months, something like that. So the prices can get up to 100 plat. So for a new player, a newer player, or a player that doesn't have a lot of plat, that is quite the pretty penny. If you don't have Jolt, if you don't want to buy it, farm it, etc., simply go for Convulsion. Next to Toxin. Pistol Pestilence, a lot easier to obtain from Corrupted War in the Void. From the trade chat, you can get it as low as 10 plat. Normally something like 15. 60% Toxin and 60% status chance. And the last mod slot on a weapon is what I like to call an option slot. Plug into this one whatever you feel comfortable with. Honestly, you don't need this much power for 95 or 99% of what Warframe has to offer. So catering the weapon to your own individual playstyle will bring you, at least from my point of view, a whole lot more enjoyment out of the game. So bear that one in mind. But let me highlight a couple of good options. Punch Through with Seeker, 2.1 meters. Considering that the Akjagara Prime only has 0.2, you're gonna get tremendous value out of Seeker. It's a form of crowd control of sorts. Your bullets will be going through the initial target and hitting another 2.1, 2.3 meters in this case behind the initial target. And link in the cards right now if you wanna see how Punch Through actually works in Warframe. So this is a good idea. Another good idea will be damage. Yes, of course, damage is always a good idea. Auger Pack, fairly inexpensive mod, easy to farm, 90% extra damage, which of course will be amplifying everything on the weapon, including the elementals. But perhaps you're more of a crit kind of guy, a guy after my own heart. Hydraulic Crosshairs, now this one is the, let's call it the Argon scope of secondary weapons on headshot, 135% critical chance when aiming for 9 seconds. And you can farm this one from Lua Spy missions, if not from the trade chat, no more than 10 plat. 10 plat is plenty for this one. If not, if you want to farm it, link in the cards right now. Now, again, the last mod slot is entirely up to you guys. For the initial build, if you really want to go Corrosive like I go Corrosive, I would recommend you increase the amount of Corrosive on the weapon because of the IPS rules in Warframe. Impact, Puncture, and Slash have a 4 times greater chance at proccing over elemental types such as Corrosive, Electricity, Toxin, etc. So, if I am to multiply the slash times 4, it's way over 1200, it's close to 1300, yeah, it's over 1300, so bear that one in mind. If I actually want to proc Corrosive, I need to get that value higher, and you can do that with the 90 mods, either Convulsion or Pathogen rounds, whatever you have handy. Now, I'm not recommending this build in particular. We're gonna use this build as a reference point of sorts, so we can see what the slash viral build can do in comparison to this one. So let's test it. Wait a second, hold on. Let's see, Arcanes, anything? Nope, nothing. Perfect. We're gonna be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Gun with level 120. Now we're gonna finally get to see what the Akjagara Prime is capable of. I'm gonna go shot by shot, just so you guys can see exactly what the weapon can do, how much damage it actually does, then I'm gonna let loose. So you can see, with a normal, average, everyday build, the weapon is fully capable of annihilating high-level targets. The first couple of shots don't deal that much damage, but past the 50% point on the target's health pool, you're seeing 4,000, 5,000, even 7,000 damage per crit. That is because I'm reducing that pesky armor through my Corrosive setup. And that is pretty respectable, and of course I can let loose with rapid fire and absolutely annihilate one of these high level targets in just a matter of seconds. And the weapon is hit scan, so it's fairly easy to aim. Take a look. Now that is definitely impressive, but we can do a bit better. If you notice, the weapon does want to slash. Take a look at that. Consistent slashes on the target, and slash always goes well. Okay, not always. 80% of the time goes good with viral damage. So let's build viral instead. We're gonna get rid of all the electricity on the weapon, and you know what? This build is even a lot more cheaper because it doesn't include Jolt. Frostbite, 60% cold, 60% status chance. If you don't want to farm it, 10, 15, maybe 20 plat from the trade chat. Why am I going for the 60-60 mods and not the 90 mods? At the end of the day, The beauty of Viral, well, one of them, is the fact that you don't need 1,000 procs to get the value out of it. Viral on a status proc will be reducing the maximum health of a target to 50% for the duration of the viral effect. So it's going to be a lot easier to take out a target using slash, as long as the viral doesn't slip off the target. I'm using the 60/60 mods to amplify my number of slashes on the target. In the case of the Akjagara Prime, a higher status chance will first and foremost mean more slashes on the target. As for the last mod slot, once again, this is an option slot. Going for damage is never really a bad idea. So here you go, Augur Pack, because this will help with the value of the slashes. You can go more into crit, etc, etc. Now let's compare this to the initial setup and see if it's any better or not. Viral, of course, tons of procs on the target. Take a look at that. Absolutely bloody fantastic. Shoot a target till about 50% HP or something like that, 50-60%, then let the slashes in combination with the viral proc deal the damage. That is absolutely bloody fantastic. Take a look. Is it better than the corrosive setup? Well, pound for pound, I would go for the corrosive setup, even though my opinion is a tad subjective on this one. The viral build, mathematically, it is better, and also viral slash build has the advantage that it's a whole lot less subjective than a corrosive setup. A corrosive setup will do fantastically well against Grenier, especially against these corrupted heavy gunner because they have ferrite armor. But a viral slash build will be giving you better results over a wider area of situations, of circumstances and all whatnot. So if you're the kind of player that just likes to build this weapon, then not fiddle around with the elementals and all whatnot and just take it into whatever mission, then definitely going for viral will slash will prove the better experience from my point of view. Again, it's simply more applicable to a wider wider case scenario, so bear that one in mind. Now, that is pretty impressive for a secondary weapon. Definitely, that is one hard-hitting weapon. But what puts the Akjagara Prime over the top is that Riven disposition of 5 out of 5. And this will be a souped-up setup, of course, with Prime Target Cracker and Prime Pistol Gambit. As for the Riven, take a look. Now, that is absolutely bloody delicious. It's not mine. Don't hate me. It's not mine. It's a simple loaner from a friend. Critical damage, multi-shot, critical chance with a minus damage to whoever. 124% crit damage, 164% multi, and over 205% critical chance, all on the same bloody Riven. Thank you so much, Riven disposition of 5 out of 5. And this is what puts the Akjagara from very good to overpowered. Yes, I said it. Yes, it is currently overpowered. Basically, it's the same episode that we had with the T-Baron Prime. Now I'm going to show off the Riven with two setups, a corrosive setup and a viral setup. If you guys remember, not too long ago, I think it was 6 months ago, something like that, we got the T-Baron Prime. Nobody played the normal version of the T-Baron. It was a mech rifle and nobody touched it. So therefore, the Riven disposition was 5 out of 5. Here comes the T-Baron Prime, which is not a marginal increase, a marginal upgrade over the normal version. It's a huge increase, and it also gets the Riven disposition of 5 out of 5 as it picks it up from its normal counterpart. And that's how OP happens. Basically, the Akjagara Prime is the same episode as with the T-Baron Prime. Now, if you remember back then, we speculated a little bit that it can't remain like this. The T-Baron Prime was simply too strong and everybody thought, okay, the Riven disposition has to go down. But it didn't. It went down after a few good months. Also, it went down by only a pretty small amount, so from Dispo 5 to Dispo 4, so still the T-Baron Prime, still one of the most powerful assault rifles in the game. As for the Akjagara Prime, I think it should be clear by now, but yes, it is one of the most powerful secondary weapons in the game currently. Considering that they didn't nerf the disposition on the T-Baron, I'm hoping they're not gonna do it on the Akjagara Prime, because take a look at this. This is a bloody joke. Honestly, it just tears through everything like there's no tomorrow. I know a good amount of primary weapons that are not even close capable of doing something like this. It is honestly fantastic, and I cannot recommend the weapon enough. The only small gripe I have against it is that it doesn't have a cool little quirk to give it a bit more personality. You guys know the Piranha Prime, also fantastic secondary weapon. That one has the whole clone thing, which kind of gives it its own vibe, its own unique thing. I would have loved something like that for the Akjagara Prime. Not the same thing, no, but something like that. But anyway, because there's nothing better than having your cake and eating it too, we're gonna bump up everything with Warframe buffs. And for that I could be using a whole bunch of frames, but I prefer Lady Mirage Prime for objective reasons, of course. Now let's hop on over and see what kind of buffs she's got. For an aura you can use something like Pistol Lamp. Now that is 27% extra damage. It's not a huge amount, but this is an aura, so everybody in your party will be receiving this benefit, and it is stackable ×4. However, if you know you're going to be fighting Grenier, keep in mind that Corrosive Projection is guaranteed to give you better results. Considering how much power the Akjagara Prime has, you don't really need to focus your aura around the weapon. You can use something like Energy Siphon or whatever you guys prefer. Arcanes, however, are a whole lot more impactful than the aura. Arcane Precision on headshot, 80% chance for plus 120% damage to pistols for 8 seconds. And you can double stack these if you so desire, but I would recommend you look into Arcane Avenger instead. Now this one gets you a 30% critical chance boost, a bonus additive after, which means that it stacks on top of what you already have. Basically a 0% crit chance weapon is going to be going to 30% crit chance with the buff from Arcane Avenger up. In my case, I'm finally going over 100% crit chance on the Akjagara Prime. Now finally we're into one-shot territory with the Akjagara Prime. One more time, Corrupted Heavy Gunner is level 120 and activating Mirage's free ability for a massive damage increase as well as her lovely clones. Now take a look what the weapon is capable of. Absolutely bloody fantastic, fully capable of my favorite magic trick of now you see him, now you don't. 100% recommend the weapon. Honestly, if you're just looking for something with a insane amount of power, go for the Akjagara Prime. Currently a set is kind of expensive. I mean, I think it's about 300 flat a full set, but you can try to buy relics from syndicates and get some rad shares going and all whatnot. As for Rivens, yes, they're 100% worth it, but unfortunately they're also very expensive, so bear that one in mind. If you love the weapon, 100% go for it. It's Dispo 5, so as you can see, it can basically annihilate everything that stands in your path. The only gripe, I guess, objectively that you can have with this one is the fact that it's kind of a semi-weapon experience, so there is that to take into account. But I'm stretching my back for complaints, so I'm gonna call it a day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you got any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. Now I can't realistically promise you that it'll be done by next time or even within a week because these things take a bit of time to make, but I will be reading through each and every comment. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. But until next time, my friends, bye bye.